Alrighty, All Facts Media here. I'm Aaron Robinson here with my twin brother Andrew Robinson, and today we are joined by Marist assistant coach Serge Clement. So thanks for joining us today, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas. Much appreciated, man.
No problem, man. No problem. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the coronavirus and how it's impacted college programs around the country. So first and foremost, though, before we get into that, we just want to know a little bit about your coaching background. So talk to us about your playing career and then also your journey into coaching, and obviously you have stopped at St. Peter's as well, and now you're at Marist. So talk to us about your basketball journey and kind of how you got into coaching as well.
I got my from New York, Queens, New York. I started playing my high school. I went to St. John's Prep out of Astoria, Queens. Had a pretty good career. I was typical like one of those kids in New York City that didn't listen. I took a pretty much a different path than a lot of people. I went to probably about 3 to 4 schools before I ended up ultimately at SUNY Potsdam to finish my career. Had a good career there, and I was fortunate enough to jump on as a GA at SUNY Cortland, and I was able to get my master's. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to latch on at SUNY at Adelphi University, in Long Island, Division II institution. So I went from SUNY Cortland Division III, then to Adelphi Division II, grinded my way there, and then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity at St. Peter's. And that's where I was there for 5 seasons. And then my boss took the job at Marist College, and I was fortunate enough and blessed with the opportunity to go along with him, and actually finished my 7th year of Division I and approaching my 8th year as an assistant coach on this level. So I've had I had a pretty nice journey to where I'm at now, and obviously the journey still continues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll talk about that. I mean, that's definitely interesting dynamic. Obviously, starting off at St. Peter's, and then switching over to Marist. Obviously, 2 schools that are still, competing in the same conference in the MAC. So kind of talk about that transition and kind of, how that came about and what that was like for you.
St. Peter's was a challenging place. Maybe not too many people know, but I'm fortunate enough to get an opportunity there to get my start, and I'm very appreciative of that. And pretty much you're coming from a place where you don't have a variety of resources, and you're figuring things out more or less, and transitioning into an institution like Marist College where the resources are readily available to you. And it's just basically a difference between resources and location, and obviously a few other things that are different than where I was at St. Peter's before. But I would say that obviously St. Peter's is definitely a nice stepping stone place, and they provided that opportunity for me to where I'm at today at Marist College.
We understand that you kind of have a interesting story about how you first found out about how you were going to end up at going to Marist with Coach Dunn. Can you elaborate on that experience?
Yeah, I mean, as assistants, I know everyone, many Division I assistants, or just assistants in general, that your boss is always working you, always riding you, and that's normal. That's part of the game. And so it's funny, after the Final Four, I walk into the office, and it's kind of one of those days, regular day after the Final Four. You walking up, just reminiscing about the time you had as far as just like networking and meeting people, and he walks past me, taps me on my shoulder, and says, "Meet me in the office." And I do one of those like, damn, like damn, what I do now? Like, so in my mind, I'm kind of going over everything that happened the week before I left. Just trying to just picture in my mind, make sure I dotted my I's, crossed my T's with this, with that. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And I walked in there a little bit confident, like, yeah, I ain't do anything wrong. But it was, so I went in there. He was by his desk. He said, shut the door. And I looked around the office. The first thing I noticed was things were missing. Like, it was empty. It was, so I looked around. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I just kind of went with the flow. And when he said, "Hey, man, I'm going to Marist. And I looked at him. I'm like, okay, nice. For what? And I gave him kind of one of those. And then no, he said, no, I'm going to Marist. I took the job at Marist. And so I said, oh, okay, cool, congratulations. And then he says, man, I want you to come with me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, we out. Let's pack this bag. And then I said, we're out. And that's kind of all she wrote with that. And from there, everything was like a whirlwind from there. And like I said, I'm appreciative of the opportunity to grow at St. Peter's. And now I'm at Marist, and we're trying to rebuild this program as well. So
obviously, right now, currently, we're going through an unprecedented time now. Right now, this coronavirus kind of has the whole sporting world, at a pause. Obviously, college basketball is one thing that it's affecting, really, really largely, especially with the recruiting aspect. With the academic aspect, you got guys that are taking online courses and doing workouts and whatnot. So, how has this affected you guys specifically at Marist College?
I mean, from on the grand scheme of things, it's pretty much affecting everyone the same way. Where we're used to actually right now probably doing a spring workouts of some sort. More or less just monitoring the guys, checking class checks and things of that nature. But it's affected us just as it has affected everyone else. And we're trying to be creative in terms of how we communicate with the guys. Everyone's on Zoom now. Everyone's on Skype, FaceTime, things of that nature. So it's just, like I said, it's unfortunate that this is happening right now in our country. And we just have to do the best we can with what we have and just continue to educate our guys about the severity of what's really going on, because kids are naive to what's happening in this world. And it's really bad. And it's something that we just need to make sure we keep educating them on. And also to keep the focus of, all right, academics and basketball. Academics, we'll make sure we're staying on top of you with that. And basketball, I mean, these kids, obviously, they wouldn't be on scholarship if they didn't love the game. So I know they'll be taking care of their bodies. And it'll be it's an extra incentive right now to be how would you say, in the back cave, just working out, getting your push-ups and getting your sets in and conditioning by just doing some laps and jogging, trying to get some miles in. So, right now it's just keeping them level-headed and letting them continuing to educate them that the severity of this, but also in the back of their mind that they have to try to be live as normal as they can, other than just going outside and seeing each other or touching each other physically or playing basketball with each other physically.
Right. So obviously, this has definitely had a profound effect on recruiting. Obviously, with the spring recruiting period, and all the AAU events being canceled, you guys currently have guys on campus right now to come visit. You can't go evaluate anybody right now because obviously all the high school gyms are shut down. So how has this affected you guys at Marist with your recruiting and kind of being able to evaluate guys that you want to bring into your program?
Yeah, where it hurts in particular is you're down to a few guys and you were expecting the season. Obviously, you expect the season to end, but then to get them on visits, and then that kind of hurts because now you can't get them on visits, and now you're going to end up essentially getting commits with kids not visiting institutions and campuses. So it hurts from a macro aspect. Everyone's in that same boat and situation, and it's just going to be one of those things where you have to be creative. And I'm pretty sure the country is caught up as well. Other Division I institutions and programs have caught up as far as doing Zoom Zoom presentations and things of that nature. Just making sure it's in the confines of compliance, because communicating with these prospects and the athletes, you got to make sure that you're have spoken with your compliance director and making sure you know what you can do and can't do as far as the means of communication and recruiting. So it still applies. So we've been creative with that, and just letting the guys know that who we've been honing on prior to this pandemic, that we really want them and their priorities to us before any of this major crisis started to occur. So it's just keeping them the guys that we were on before engaged and letting them know that we haven't fallen off, and then finding a way to be creative and generating new names and, bringing it to the table and evaluating. And that's what it ends up coming down to, evaluating guys and figuring out if it's still the right fit without seeing them in person.
Obviously, like you said, you guys have had to find ways to be creative, and I know you guys have a pretty nice campus over there at Marist. What type of ways have you kind of tried to be creative, in showcasing your campus all to recruits? Or, have you guys looked into Zoom interviews or Zoom tours, or what type of things have you guys done to try to, showcase your beautiful campus to recruits?
Try not to let the cat out the bag too much, so these other people don't emulate us. But I'm just joking. We're doing you're doing the same thing as people are doing the Zoom interviews, not interviews, but the presentations. But also, if you're recruiting the kid and sending them videos at campus, Skype videos at campus, not Skype, excuse me, not Skype, but pretty much drone videos of campus. I'm sorry. Like the residential dorms, just showing them things that they probably wouldn't see if it was a regular tour, and then just being creative as far as like the facility, showing them the facilities, drone videos of the facilities. We even have a video where we just built a new $32 million facility, and we have a video to where it shows day by day how it was being built to where it's finally in its masterpiece done. And we show something like that. And that's pretty much it. And just try to make sure we try to engage with the student athletes about what we have for them and how we can help them be better, along with the aesthetics, the nice facilities that we have here too.
Hey man, that's pretty high level, man. $32 million facilities, drone videos. Seems like Marist is kind of ahead of the curve with this coronavirus season.
Hey man, I'm 32 might be on the low end. I think it might be 35. I had $3 million of that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I know it's in between that ballpark right there.
That's what's up, man. Hey.
For sure.
So I wanted to kind of ask you. I wanted you kind of put things in perspective. Obviously, we're all players and coaches, and around the game, we all want to get back to playing and things like that. But obviously, this is a serious virus that's going around that's killing people and putting many others in the hospital. So, putting it in perspective, at the end of the day, basketball is just a game, and this sport that we play, we're all blessed to play. So, how do you kind of like, obviously, I know the main goal for all of us is our families and keeping everybody safe. But, as a coach, it's your job to win basketball games and to put the best product on the floor. So for you guys, as a coaching staff, how have you been able to kind of put this whole thing in perspective and kind of just understand that, basketball is very important, but at the end of the day, we have lives at stake at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. Just prior to this pandemic happening, that's always the mindset that you have to go with. Being like, you got to understand that we're trying to survive at the end of the day. But the one thing you don't want to be susceptible to is just not being authentic. Yeah. So regardless of what the circumstances is, you got to be fully transparent with who you're recruiting or with the parents and everything in your approach. You have to be transparent with them, because ultimately that's what's going to happen. Your kid will end up on the transfer list, or your guys will leave, or they'll quit on you, or things of that nature. So the first thing, to answer your question is you have to be honest, open and honest and transparent. Some kids may not like it, and some people may love it and adore it. But ultimately, if you want to sleep at night and feel comfortable in your own skin, ultimately you have to be open and honest from the front. And not too many people operate that way. Not a lot of people play recruiting games and tactics. I know you have to protect yourself from a business standpoint, and also protect yourself from just from your own morale as well. But you just have to make sure that when you're protecting yourself and it's a business, you just got to be upfront about it. You can be upfront about recruiting, but you just have to be strategic on how you're doing it.
Right.
You touched on a little bit in your answer just now about how if kids aren't happy with their fitness, coaches might not be transparent. They might end up in the transfer portal. Obviously, that's something that is kind of plaguing college basketball now. And obviously, there was a rule that's supposed to get voted on in June about whether to allow players to be immediately eligible for one-time transfers. So obviously, if this rule does get passed, there will be a spike in transfers. Even more than it is now. So how do you think that this is going to affect mid-major basketball and basketball? On a grand level, college basketball as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, on the macro scene, it's going to hurt everyone. High school kids won't get recruited as much. And if they do, they'll probably end up leaving, going somewhere else. Junior college kids, probably won't get recruited as much. Maybe not. I just think from a macro thing, I think me personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I'm not in favor of it. I know higher levels might be, or I don't know what the other schools are thinking or what other people think, but for me personally, I'm not in favor of it because I think it's just, I know I'm a creature of habit and I need continuity. So meaning like I can't I've always switched my entire life. I've always been doing something different every year, every 2 years, every 3 years. And I think kids need to be somewhere. And then if they make a change, things happen. Yes, then I'll go somewhere else. But like transferring to 2, 3 schools, 3 schools, 4 schools, you got 4 years, you got 5 years, play 4, and you're transferring to 3 schools. I don't think that sends the right message. And I think essentially as a young man, I think that teaches you to just look for the next best thing. And I don't think that's the way to approach life, to be honest with you, the next best thing. I think you got to work through certain things, and I think you have to keep proving yourself. And you can see that in me just by, from where I came from and the levels of college basketball that I've coached.
Right. That's all the questions I have for the coach. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask, Ace?
I think that was it. I think you covered most of it with the recruiting aspect of it. So I think we're all good.
Well, Coach, man, first of all, we want to say thank you for coming on this episode of Coach's Corner with us. We really appreciate it. And wish you guys at Marist the best of luck. Man,
I appreciate it, fellas, man. You guys are doing a good thing, man, and keep grinding. As I said to you before, every time I seen you guys at Quinnipiac, the layup line, you always had an infectious personality, and keep doing what you guys doing, man, and keep making your people and your family proud of you, man. All right?
Thanks a lot, Coach, man. We appreciate it.
For sure.
Be well.